So,
Oh, it's recording now. So thank you for the warm welcome, Aaron. Hi everyone. This is so exciting. I'm Christina Tan, and I'm your facilitator for today's Lunch and Learn. And thank you, Bluegrass chapter, for the invite. Just sort of a quick recap. Yes, I'm also the chapter president of IIBA UK, and I'm also CBAP certified transformation consultant, specialized in business analysis. But as we all probably know, business analysis can really, so skill sets can take all different forms, and that's what I use my skill sets do as a launchpad to help my transformation clients to deliver on their transformation journeys. So there we are. And today we'll take a kind of a practical tour of the VMOST technique. I believe we'll have 45 minutes for today's session. So I'll introduce you to VMOST, kind of dive into the introduction, so into each element, some use cases for the VMOST, illustrate a couple of real life examples of where I've applied it, share it with this group, and also to sort of touch on how to apply VMOS in your projects if you aren't already. I also appreciate it is lunchtime over in the US, so feel free to sit back and enjoy the session. I'm opting to do most of the talking, but feel free to also comment where you can. Right. I guess a slight bit of interaction to begin with. Probably try to utilize this chat function. I might need Aaron's assistance in sort of maybe pulling out what's in the comments, but in the chat function, yes, type in that one word. So that describes how strategy conversations feel in your organization where you work. See the chat actually. Yeah, I hear you. Slog, frequent, predetermined, painful, cumbersome, fast paced. Yeah. I've asked similar questions across the pond in the UK. Collaborative, good, good. That's high level. Yeah, absolutely. Sharing some other responsive I've heard from those in the UK. Suppose they've got a views of words, but kind of echoed certain sentiments. Opaque is one of them. Looking at some of those, siloed is another one. Visionary, sometimes in some sort of high tech environments, quite visionary. It's great. You can see another one, lengthy. Thank you from the chat. Ambitious, disconnected, and some people have actually joined the two latter words together, ambitious but disconnected. And which actually stuck in my mind for a while, and I thought it was worth calling out because this is exactly where the VMOS might add value. Right, thank you. So that's for your inputs, everyone. Let me see, jump to the next slide. Right, so firstly, let's set the scene. So let's reflect on what we as BAs are really trying to achieve. So we strive to sort of strengthen strategic alignment, and that's where the VMOST really begins. You know, it gives us a clear structure to trace requirements back to organization's vision and objectives, understanding why we're doing what we're doing. So no sort of further guessing on whether a product feature that you're working on fits in the bigger picture. We also aim to reduce ambiguity early. We all want to sort of make that clarifications from the get-go. That's part of what we do best. And VMOS helps us to do that by surfacing those gaps in understanding before they become rework or becomes kind of a knotty ball of confusion. So when we ask which objective does this support, or what's the strategy behind this request, we're using elements of VMOST already to kind of clarify that strategic intent. We're also in constantly supporting stakeholder clarity, and most VMOST gives us a shared language to do that. So instead of the vague strategy talk, so from that chat, some strategy can sound lengthy, others are really high level, as pointed out earlier. I would say in most cases, from my own understanding, actually a lot of them are quite vague. So instead of that, we can guide stakeholders through this kind of vision, mission, and measurable objectives. It's structured, but simple enough for our senior stakeholders to get on board with and refer as a single artifact. We want to kind of create and use a common language, and that's what VMOST is all about. It helps product delivery and leadership teams talk about strategy and execution without the confusion. It bridges between business intent and technical delivery. And finally, here to make better decisions faster. So, so VMOST acts as a filter for that. So it helps us prioritize and challenge scope creep and justify trade-offs with confidence. So we talking about VMOST. We're not just introducing new frameworks for the sake of it. We're giving ourselves a practical tool across people we're speaking with different professions. They don't need to be a BA to understand what we're talking about. It brings that clarity and it helps us to influence within the organization and minimizes friction between stakeholders. Right. So moving on to sort of breaking down the VMOST. Well, firstly, here's what it stands for. It gives BAs a structured way to connect requirements into strategy, and it becomes your alignment toolkit, your alignment buddy, really. Something you can use in discovery, your backlog refinements for those working in product-centric teams, even helps with business cases and stakeholder workshops. So yes, as BAs, we often find ourselves bridging that gap between vision and execution and translate that ambiguity into sort of like, clarity and strategy and the deliverables. So to do that, we sort of ensure that our work aligns with the bigger picture and to help organizations move from scattered efforts to more focused impact. So this is where VMOST comes in. It's more than a framework, and let's break it down. So starting with vision, this is essentially the North Star, I would say. It's like a vivid, aspirational picture of the future the organization wants to create. And in most of the larger organizations, it tends to kind of be that a strapline or a statement that you can find on your intranet page, your company website. So it's not just words on the wall. I'm sure lots of these executives spent lots of time to come up with vision statements. And it's the reason why they continue to innovate, transform, evolve. That's because they have that North Star. The mission, I would say that is more of the heartbeat of the organization. It defines what we do. It's about sort of who we serve, why it matters. So for BAs, understanding the mission helps us to ask better questions and challenge assumptions with purpose. Objectives, these are the measurable milestones that turn vision into progress. As analysts, we help shape these by identifying what success looks like and how progress can be tracked and what good looks like. Strategy, so the overarching approach to achieving those objectives, so it's where we start seeing the contours of delivery, the programs, initiatives, and transformation plans. Our role as BAs, we ensure that strategy is informed by insight and grounded in feasibility. tactics, the boots on the ground actions. This is where delivery happens. You use stories, you kind of process changes, system configurations. These are your your change requests, your projects. So this is where sort of BAs typically shine to kind of flesh out these details. Sort of feel with sort of up layers kind of informing of prioritization and alignment. And this is where we start translating these strategy into tangible outcomes at the project level. So you can see that the VMOST empowers us to ask the right questions at every level. So our requirements align with strategy. That's a common question. Is the strategy delivering to our objectives? And are the objectives moving us closer to the vision? So these are the kinds of questions that at a very holistic level, as one moves into the project, this is what we'd like to think about and be really clear about as BAs. So I think let's move on to the next slides, just talking about the use cases, because when used well, the VMOST helps BAs move beyond reactive analysis and into the realm of strategic influence. And we can explore how here. So feel free to ask questions as we go along. Can't seem to see the chat function right now, but Aaron, if there's any questions at the relevant stages, please just shout. And anyone else too, feel free to do that.
Got you covered.
Sorry?
I said, I got you covered.
Oh, thank you. Is that for a sec? Thank you. So use cases. Right, let's get started on this. Shaping early project discovery. So at the start of any initiative, we're not alone when there's lots of ambiguity around sort of why we're doing what we're doing, how is this aligned with what our senior stakeholders are talking about in these all hands calls. Lots of ambiguity. Those reasons and more. And the VMOST helps BAs ask the right questions and sort of what's the vision driving this? What objectives are we solving for? So it turns kind of vague ideas into more structured discovery. We also have this opportunity to align some senior stakeholders as well, because stakeholders often speak different strategic dialects. That's something that resonates really strongly with me right now as I recently moved on to a new project and a new client. So the VMOST gives us a shared language to bridge those gaps, sort of linking executive vision into tactical delivery, and it helps us to facilitate alignment with confidence. Validating requirements. So again, strategy. The VMOST lets us trace each requirements back to the mission objectives and ensuring that what we build actually kind of moves the needle and makes the impact that we think it will. Preventing scope creep. So when you request to emerge, the VMOST becomes, I would say, it's almost like a compass. It helps us align sort of with the strategy and rules we refer back to. So as things move in the business, but as we kind of keep this VMOST artifact alive, it helps us support that where the business is heading, and if not, we have a structured rationale to challenge it as well. So it's also a safety net for especially BAs. And guiding roadmap decisions, again, really kind of resonates with me. So with my new project, we're just about to embark on a VMOST 4 actually, but it helps me contribute meaningfully to roadmap conversations, anchoring features initiatives to organizational goals. But we set out the big picture at the top level. It helps us to consolidate really complex roadmap into outcomes, sort of led roadmaps that clearly reflects what multiple product teams could be working on, and it could be that that helps executives could also resonate and be really assured that they're using resources meaningfully. Yeah, so yes, designing, refining operating models and improving prioritization stations. But yeah, with operating models, we're looking at whether we're mapping processes or proposing changes. VMOST ensures our designs reflect organization's vision and strategy, and it's not just operational convenience. And one thing I love about the VMOST is it's such a useful sort of artifact to bring up again in retrospectives, lessons learned, in other words, with a strategic lens. It's one of the most referred back to documents from my team. So that's another thing about the VMOST. It's not a throwaway document. You actually keep that across multiple projects. It gives that holistic view. Which, if you keep alive, it's almost, you can keep it as a almost evergreen type of artifact with changes from time to time. Right, so I've done lots of talking about, I guess, setting the scene, use cases. We can now kind of move on to some real life examples. So of course I had to sort of slightly tweak and anonymize this is slightly condensed version of a real artifact from one of my previous clients, where I was the lead business analyst. It's for financial services provider, mostly provides mortgage services, mortgage loans. And I use a VMOST to kind of anchor every conversation from discovery to delivery in strategic clarity. So the organization's vision was bold. It recently became a top tier, a first tier financial services provider, as we call it in the UK. And it needs, in the long term, it needs to become a sustainable top tier mortgage provider with that agility to respond to market shifts and take and sort of take the chance to maximize opportunities that comes their way within the market, which is actually quite a big ask from sort of its recent past, where there's a small, it was perceived as more of a smaller building society, as we call it in the UK. So that we'll call the second tier bank, shall we say. So they've grown really quickly, and they also needed to make sure that they comply with all these top tier financial services compliance too. So the VMOST helped kind of translate that ambition into clear mission and measurable objectives and actionable strategies. So with that, there's this VMOST structure in place. I was able to confidently shape initiatives that directly supported this strategy. So modernizing core systems, we know why that is. So we were able to sort of look at compliance frameworks and see all that fitting together. We have improving customer experience as well, so that it allows us to capture feedback quickly enough to kind of capitalize on market opportunities. So the VMOST gave me, and more importantly, my clients, the executives, that language and logic to challenge scope, guide prioritization, and join the dots, because all of that inevitably are somewhat interrelated. So if you're going to be upgrading a platform and the IT infrastructure, it needs to be future-proof enough to scale upwards. It needs to be compliant to financial services legislation, and they'll also consider requirements such as analytics and how we capture data to allow us to make sort of meaningful sort of pounces in the market for opportunities and develop products accordingly. So during this particular journey, I will say it strengthened almost every initiative I had around building business cases, identifying opportunities, not just excelling in the projects I was actually assigned to. I sort of looked at improving the net promoter scores through business intelligence tools and the data that's already there, as well as ideas to launch quarterly market insight reviews that I will say is quite innovative in the area at the time of that particular project. To stay close to customer needs needed to limited justification because of the VMOST, but because of the VMOST, I was able to quickly refer to the elements across all these elements really to build that business case. And it was easily traceable back to the VMOS that already had total stakeholder buy-in at the time. So yes, it became a core reference document that allowed for innovation too. And the VMOS became that backbone of strategic delivery, and it really did empower me to lead with impact. So that is financial services provider. Now, so as mentioned, I'm also chapter president at IIBA UK. I work really closely with our operations director in a chapter, of course, and as an organization with around 50 volunteers in the UK. We use this VMOST as a bit of a strategic engine. So as president, I've seen firsthand how VMOST transform our chapter from being slightly reactive in the past to more purpose-driven, delivery-focused organization with lots of passion, lots of enthusiasm. How do we keep our volunteers happy, engaged, and sort of keep that energy and momentum alive, really? And how do we translate their ideas into action? So we started with this bold vision to be the most valuable professional community for BAs in the UK, powered by skilled, engaged volunteers and seamless operations. So clearly a North Star, I would say. It's a volunteer-led organization with operations really be seamless, and I think it's a work in progress, but that's certainly what we strive to be. And we'll always have lessons that we want to learn and have learned. But we also have a clear mission to attract, develop, and retain talented BAs, enabling them to contribute meaningfully as volunteers, and sort of advancing their careers and profession too. So everyone has the motivations for getting involved, and we would like to help them out too where we could. So we also have objectives around building sustainable volunteer pipelines. We want to achieve operational excellence, and we want to also foster a culture of recognition and belonging. I will probably say that it's probably a given that we also hold lots of events for knowledge sharing. So from an operational perspective, this is our focus with VMOST. So we, instead of just having these words as aspirations, we have measurable goals that guides everything we do in these respects. So we have sort of started to kind of flesh these strategies out so that we've shifted volunteer recruitment from reactive to proactive. So instead of just listing what volunteer roles are vacant, which they are, but we're also inviting sort of our community to come up with ideas and with our support and guidance, perhaps we could help them and empower them to make the impact that they would like to within the community. So sort of with a compelling value proposition and multi-channel outreach through our platform. We've also started designing really good frictionless onboarding experiences. So on the operational side, which is great. We accelerated productivity on that front, and sort of built lasting relationships with people and making information available on demand, but also have the proximity to the relevant volunteers as well when they need to talk. And we're also currently looking to multi-layered recognition system to celebrate contributions and sort of reinforce our internal community as well. We're eliminating manual tasks, so automation and building that culture of data stewardship and clear policies and training. And tactics here, so in terms of how we're going to make those happen, we're looking, we've done volunteer surveys, so we've done role descriptions. We are looking at, in a very business analysis fashion, requirements gathering and elicitation, workflow design to drive automation. So this is a very internal business analysis kind of package that we put together for our volunteers. So not only are they learning, they're also helping us achieve operational excellence. We give spotlights and metrics to volunteers to embed recognition. We're going to be evolving that in coming months as well. And we're, as part of tightening up on our operations, we're also looking at audits and curriculum development to strengthen that things, compliance elements like data privacy as well. Right, yeah. So the chapter received numerous ideas and suggestions from the community. So by having VMOST artifacts handy, we can quickly identify with closer connection, to make that closer connection, to our objectives, and then prioritize those accordingly. So overall, it gives us strategic confidence. It ensures that every initiatives we pursue is anchored to our purpose, and every decision's traceable to our goals, and every volunteer experience is part of the bigger story.
So, Christina, you got a comment in the chat that it looks like project KPIs.
So is this for the objectives? Yeah. So yeah, I think it's some of the objectives kind of tends to be measurable. It probably will resemble it. Yeah, some of them may well resemble project KPIs. It might not be the project KPIs. I think under each tactic, there probably will be success factors in itself. But if it somewhat resembles project KPIs, I mean, I suppose that might happen as well. That it depends on the context of which the VMOST is in and what landscape you're in. All right. Right. Now, so moving to how to apply the VMOST to your projects. So let's say VMOST is quite a practical tool. Hopefully that's a picture I've painted sort of over the course of this presentation. Is a really practical tool for everyday delivery, and it'll be advisable to start on this sort of exercise when you first join a project, if one doesn't already exist. So I've kind of touched on my experiences that I'm sharing with you in this session. So I've mentioned I'm currently sort of in a new project myself. I'm currently building a program core team that focuses on triaging and prioritizing incoming requests at a UK government department. And there are multi-layered and multifaceted strategies that even deputy directors and directors may not always be all that familiar with. We know it's stored, don't worry, but they couldn't, it doesn't roll off the tongue, and they need a whole hour just to with me just to summarize it and articulate it in layman's terms, which makes it incredibly difficult when it comes to understanding and surfacing new requests coming into the program, which is a new program that already has existing projects with incoming requests coming from quite excited stakeholders that learn that there is a newly formed digital solutions team. right? So amongst all of the ruckus that's happening, all really exciting stuff. However, it's so it's the VMOS exercise I've suggested, which is actually quite a good way of actually warming up to a new team. It's quite a fun exercise, I'd say, to piece together sort of these various layers that leads to especially strategy and tactics. That's when people start to see whether existing and incoming projects ultimately is it or should be integral to the organization or not. And this is where the challenges and some further thinking and sort of the critical thinking really kicks in. But to get that work through the vision through to the strategy and further down, it really kind of strengthens the entire team's understanding of the organization. And the challenge is great because they might want to reconsider or reposition some of the existing projects, and they might look at incoming requests in a different light. So what I'm planning to do myself with the VMOST once it's completed is to use this as a filter. I mentioned that earlier in this presentation about using it as a filter and using it as a prioritization tool, and that's exactly what's intended to do in my particular project. I can't show it just yet because that's going to happen next week. It is still in progress, but it's essential for executive decision support. So everyone's absolutely on board with the idea. And I've even heard some of them say, well, why didn't we think of that before? And so we can create a sort of a jargon-free, easy to understand VMOS. In some more complex organizations, you might want to break some of the lower level down level sort of strategy and tactics into, I guess, different pillars, and you can then focus on the ones that perhaps just is applicable to you and what you do if it's really a complex environment. But that's what it's about. It's a tool that helps you sort of hone in on sort of the areas most applicable to yourself. And yes, I think sort of mapping current initiatives to VMOST to spot misalignment. You can apply it, as I mentioned, prioritization filter to cut through some noise. And in my current project, well, I can't wait to bring it into a retrospective and to reflect on whether or not it's useful, which I'm dare I say I'm quite confident it will be. So that's me. I think it's one team doing one framework, and the VMOS helps keep that strategy alive in the day-to-day. I think that's been of a massive help to me, and hopefully it's insightful to you too. I think that's me. Yes, thank you, everyone.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much, Christina. So anybody have any questions for Christina? Yeah, I do see a request for the PDU code. We are not a PMI chapter, so I don't have a PDU code for you, but I will be sharing CDU information. Everybody here will get a email tomorrow, the follow-up email, which will have a link to this recording and the CDU information. Griffin and Retta, did we have a question there?
We do not have questions.
All right. So we're getting plenty of thank yous. Great presentation in the chat, Christina. Let
Thank you
me
very much. It's been a
go
pleasure.
up and see if I missed anything.
A quick question. Would you like a copy of the presentation decks?
Sure, send that to me and I can put it in that follow-up email.
Right,
So
yeah.
a comment, this seems like a great framework to organize a strategic plan implementation discussion.
Sounds like it. Yes. Yeah, I'd love to keep in touch and hear about your experiences with it. Absolutely.
And somebody's impressed that you are using this for your own chapter work.
Yeah, I think I might not have got started with it as soon as I joined the chapters board, but I think as soon it's better late than never. I thought, well, let's walk the talk too, right? There's a question. Yeah, so could this tool be used to organize a project?
So what type of meetings do you cover the VMOST in?
Sorry, it's
It's asked what type of meetings do you cover the VMOST in?
what kind of meetings? Potentially a variety of different meetings. So because the use cases are pretty vast, as mentioned in that presentation. So um, okay, there's a direct example from fresh experience. It's if we're looking at emerging needs coming from your wider stakeholders about what to include in the program you're working in, and assessing whether or not it's really a priority in an organization. You might want to bring that VMOS into the session. Um, when it comes to meetings talking about prioritization and sort of where certain initiatives sits. Again, the VMOST is a handy sort of artifact to bring up. So there's not just the one set sort of meeting, I would say. Yeah, I think it's if there are meetings looking to assess multiple projects and stakeholders being but confused about why they're running the projects the way they are, and the importance of sort of longer term objectives, and that's where it will be used.
Okay. And could you use this tool to organize a project?
Yeah, so yes, I was looking at that. So Tristy, yeah, I think you might be able to sort of help. It might be one of the supporting artifacts when it comes to organizing a project, but I think it tends to be of more use when thinking about a project holistically and where it should sit in the prioritization pecking order. But it might be useful to see where the project sits within the VMOS and then under which kind of objective and strategy. And it may help inform of how the organization is, the project should be organized and structured. But yeah, I think so it might help inform you of the purpose and scope of the project in relation to the elements higher up, the strategy, the objectives, vision and mission. But yeah, and perhaps it might even put some inspiration in seeing how you could standardize how you structure the project could be standardized across that VMOS portfolio.
Okay.
Yeah.
And somebody made the comment that this technique has got potential for enterprise architecture framework. So
Yeah, absolutely.
they see value there as well.
Yes.
So silly question, what's the difference between vision and mission?
So yeah, I mentioned it's that vision is sort of more of what the ultimate end goal of of what we're trying to achieve within an organization. If you're a tech consultancy, you might want to say you want to be the number one tech consultancy and the most trusted sort of partners in industry. That could be a vision. And then the mission of that could be it's more about sort of it defines more about sort of your what what we do, who we serve, and sort of and why all that matters. So this is why we are looking to achieve that North Star, if that makes sense. So yeah, I think that the two of them can very frequently be sort of a little mixed up. But for the purpose of this particular technique, it has that particular definition.
Yeah, so your mission is kind of how you intend to get to the vision or what services you provide to get there, such
Yeah,
as,
yes,
your
yes,
example
absolutely.
being the number one consultancy company. Your mission would be best company servicing your clients and providing a world-class consulting service, something of that nature.
Absolutely.
So that kind of defines the difference between the two. Okay. Um, yeah, there was some chats about CDUs in there. Yes, keep the email that you were going to get tomorrow. Um, many people just put them in a folder somewhere because you renew your CBAP or CCBA every 3 years. So in that email, if you do get audited, just send that email to IIBA because only the people that are here today will get the email. If you registered and did not attend, you'll get a different email that says, sorry, you were not able to attend, and won't have CDU information or the link.
Yeah.
So, any other questions or anything?
I think there's one from Ron.
Yes. Have you used it or would you advise to use it to weight or prioritize requirements or epics using the framework when it comes down to the project level?
Yeah, absolutely good question. So the I suppose the use of the VMOST would help to guide BAs of whether so I would say sort of a higher level sort of business user requirements um whether they are off that strategic this business priority. So I think that's a higher level. At project level, I think project level, especially delivery people in this room would know that there would be typically some kind of prioritization mechanism. Now, the VMOST does not kind of remove the need for a project level prioritization. So the VMOST may flesh out, for example, 15 requirements, and those are probably mostly epic levels within our user stories, and VMOST wouldn't be able to sort of help to weight or further filter that prioritization, apart from the fact that we know that the overarching epic is something that we need to deliver. So you got to apply a second sort of the project level prioritization framework or technique, whichever you use. So if you're using things like the weighted shorter job first, or whether it's rice or Moscow, that needs to be applied to. That's a second level.
Okay. All right. I have a feeling you could use it also for personal development, planning where we want to be in our career, for example,
Absolutely.
next 5 years.
Perfect. Yes.
So yeah, make a vision and a mission.
Yes.
Have a strategic objectives on where you want to go in your career. Yes. All right. Anything else? Got a thumbs up.
All right.
All
Oh,
right.
yeah.
Thank you everybody for joining us today. Well over 30 people were here today. Appreciate that and that. Thank you for joining us. As I said, you will get the follow-up email tomorrow. There will be a link to Christina's presentation once I get that from her, as well as a link to this recording and CDU information. Appreciate everybody joining us here today. Thank you for taking your lunch hour to be with us. Christina, thank you very much for being here from, what is it, 6 or 7 p.m. for you?
It's 5:48 over here. So now the night is still young.
Night is still young. Plenty of time for you to do something this evening.
Absolutely.
So thank you again. Thank you, Christina. Appreciate everybody. Have a wonderful rest of your day.
All right. Thank you, everyone. All right. See you soon. All right. Thank you. Take care. Bye.